Your objective for lesson 15 is I will solve word problems to determine perimeter with given side lengths. So we're still working with perimeter, and this time we're going to be working with word problems. And it says that we have given side lengths, so what that means is that we're actually going to be given the side lengths for these problems, and we know that whenever we are given the side lengths, that's really easy because all we have to do is go and add those side lengths together to find the total perimeter. Okay, so Mrs. Coslow put a border around. Please pay close attention whenever you're seeing these words. That around means perimeter. So she put a border around a 5-foot by 6-foot rectangular bulletin board. How many feet of border did Mrs. Coslow use? So first thing you had to do was read it. Next thing you need to be thinking of the RDW. What can you draw to help you solve this problem? And in the problem it said a rectangular bulletin board, so that should be a hint right there that we are going to draw a rectangle. And it told us that it was 5 foot by 6 foot, so we do know the length and the width of this rectangle. So on your piece of paper I want you to draw a rectangle, and I want you to label the length, and I want you to label the width. We've got 5 feet and 6 feet. So get that drawn on your paper and then push play whenever you're ready to move on. Okay, so this is what I was looking for. Some type of rectangle like this measured 5 feet by 6 feet. So check yours with mine. And then we're going to use what we know about rectangles, and we're going to label the other sides of this rectangle. So since we know that opposite sides are equal on rectangles, then if this side is 5 feet, then this other side is also going to be 5 feet. So make sure you're writing this down on your rectangle if you don't already have that down. If this side was 6 feet, then this side is also 6 feet. So now that we know all of the side lengths, then we can figure out how many feet of border Mrs. Coslow used, because the border goes around, so that's going to help us find the perimeter. But I know that some of you may want to put the perimeter is blah blah blah, but that's not asking for the perimeter, it's asking for how many feet of border she used. So make sure whenever we're writing down our answer to this question that your answer is actually answering the question that it's asking you. So I want you to write the equation you're going to use to find the answer to this question on your piece of paper, and then I also want you to answer this question on your piece of paper in a complete sentence. So once you have that written down, I want you to push play. So you should have wrote 6 plus 6 plus 5. It's, whoa. Okay, let me just type it. It'd be so much easier. 6 plus 6 plus 5 plus 5 is equal to blank, and whenever you add 6 and 6 together, you get 12. And whenever you add 5, oh my goodness, this thing is messing up. Whenever you add 5 and 5 together, you get 10, so I know that 12 plus 10 gives me 22. So that tells me that she will need, I'll type it out, Mrs. Coslow will need 22 feet of border. So yours on your paper should be very similar to what mine looks like right here. And now we are ready to move on. Okay. Jason built a model of the Pentagon for a social studies project. I want to put a rectangle around what I told you. This computer is stressing me out. Okay, Pentagon. P-E-N-T-A. 5 letters, 5 sides. And this one we will have to draw a pentagon, and I know that we haven't had to draw a lot of pentagons because they're usually on the paper for us already, but I'm going to show you the best way to draw a pentagon in just a second, to where it looks like all of the sides are the same length. And we know that if it's a regular pentagon, then all of the sides are going to be the same length. So the rest of the question says he made each outside wall 33 centimeters long. So if one side is 33 centimeters long, all of the other sides are 33 centimeters long. And so it is asking what is the perimeter of Jason's model pentagon. So we're going to have to draw a pentagon to help us solve this. So I'm going to get rid of some of these words here so I've got some space to draw it so I can show you the best way to draw a pentagon, and we're going to label the pentagon. So let me finish erasing all of these words and getting them out of the way. Okay, the best way to draw a pentagon is to start, my goodness, start like you're drawing a triangle, but we're just not going to draw the bottom part of it. So we're going to start with like the top part of a triangle, but just not the bottom. So get that on your paper. And another way to think of it is like a house. It kind of looks like a house. And then the bottom part is like a square without the top side of the square. So you just make these straight lines and they come down. So this bottom part looks like a square and the top part looks like a rectangle. You just do not have this line going across like this. You will not put that line. So this is what a pentagon is. Here's one side, another side, another side, another side, and another side, which makes 5 sides total. And if one side is 33 centimeters, then all of the other sides are also 33 centimeters. So on your paper, make sure you have this drawn and that you're labeling all of the sides so we can find the perimeter of this model pentagon that he drew. If you need to push play, go ahead and do that. Okay, so for this one, we know that all of the sides are the same side length, so I can put 5 times 33 is equal to blank. And you would just have to figure out what 5 times 33 is. If you do not know how to do 33 times 5 or 5 times 33, the way that we do it is 33, because you always got to start with the bigger number, times 5. And then you kind of do it like you're adding. 3 times 5 is 15, so I'm going to have my 5 down here, and I'm going to carry my 1 in the tens place. And then I take this 5 and I multiply it by what's in the tens place. 5 times 3 is also 15, but I cannot forget this 1 that I carried over, which would make it 16. So that tells me that 5 times 33 is actually 165. So now we are ready to answer the question of what is the perimeter of Jason's model pentagon. So on your piece of paper, I would like for you to answer that question in a complete sentence. And whenever you have that written down, you may push play to check it. I'm going to go through to find the answer. I was looking for, okay. The way that yours should have been written down is the perimeter of Jason's model pentagon is 165 centimeters. And then we are ready for the problem set. So make sure you have that out in front of you and ready to work on. Okay, I've got a lot of blue on my screen because these are all word problems. It's going to, all these word problems you're going to be doing the RDW with, which any word problem that you see in math, you should be using the RDW where you have to read it and draw and write. And remember that the writing is not just writing a sentence, but also writing an equation if there is an equation involved in the problem. So the first one says, oh man, I forgot. Totally forgot. I made you do it on a piece of paper and it's totally my bad. I'm not going to make you go back and rewrite these for number 1 and 2. I forgot to have you do these on your problem set. That was my fault. I made you do it on your paper. So we're going to skip number 1 and 2 because we already did that, and we're going to move on to number 3. So number 3 says the Holmes family plants a rectangular 8-yard by 9-yard vegetable garden. So first of all, you should be noticing that it says rectangular, so that means there is a rectangle involved with this problem. And it gave us the side length of the length and the width. So we're going to know what the opposite side lengths are as well. How many yards of fencing do they need to put a fence around the garden? So there's that word, around the garden, where you should be thinking of perimeter. So for this one, we're going to do just like we did for the first 2 problems. You're going to draw. For this one, it's going to be a rectangle. We know that one side's going to be labeled 8 yards and the other side's going to be labeled 9 yards, and that's going to help us figure out the other side lengths as well. So we're going to draw our rectangle and label it. Then we're going to be writing down the equation that we used to help us find out how many yards of fencing they needed. And then you're going to answer the question by answering how many yards of fencing they needed to put a fence around the garden. So I want you to go ahead and draw what you need to draw, write your equation, and then answer this in a complete sentence, and then push play whenever you're ready to check your answer. This thing keeps popping up. Okay, so here's our rectangle. We've got 8 yards, 8 yards, and then 9 yards and 9 yards. And we know that we have to do 9 plus 9 plus 8 plus 8. I know that whenever I add 9 and 9 together, that gives me 18. And I know that 8 plus 8 gives me 16. So the best way that you could have done this was to do 18 plus 16, and whenever you do 18 plus 16, that gives you 34. So the sentence that you needed was the Holmes family needs 34 yards of fence. And now we're ready to move on to the back side. Marion paints a 5-pointed star on her bedroom wall. Each side of the star is 18 inches long. What is the perimeter of the star? So, like mine shows, I want you to go ahead and label the side links of the star. And I know that you think, man, why do I have to write all of those down? But in math, I'm telling you, you always have to show your work. So go ahead and write down the side links for every side of that star. And then we are going to find the perimeter of that by adding all of those side links up. And then we're going to answer that in a complete sentence. That's a lot of 18s that we have to add together, so we'll talk about the best way to do that. So go ahead and label all the side links and then push play. Okay. I want you to look at this on the screen. I went ahead and showed it to you. There are 10 side links to that star. So we have 10 18ths, which is the same thing as 18 10s. If you remember, like way back, I think it was whenever we did like rounding or adding, we talked a lot about how many 10s and what it was equal to. We know that if we have 7 10s, that was 70. If we had 11 10s, that was 110. If we had 13 10s, that was 130. So if I have 18 10s, then that's going to be 180. So I do want you to write down what I have on the screen on your piece of paper, because it's always good to remember that whenever you have 10 of something or 18 10s or 17 10s, it's always easy to find how much that is. So the perimeter of the star is 180 inches. So make sure you have all that written down on your paper for that star, because I just wanted to show you the best way to find the perimeter of that instead of doing 18 plus 18 and doing that 10 times. Number 5 says the soccer team jogs around the outside of the soccer field twice to warm up. So if they're going around the outside of the soccer field, that means that they're going around the soccer field, which they're going around the perimeter of the soccer field. But I do want you to notice that it says that they did it twice. The rectangular field measures 60 yards by 100 yards. So the first thing I want you to do is to draw a rectangle, just like you see on the screen right here, and label it so we can see what this soccer field actually looks like. You don't have to draw 2 rectangles, even though it said that they did it twice. We'll just have to add that into our equation. So the first thing that we need to do is to find out what is the perimeter of just going around this field one time, because if we know what it is when they go around it one time, then all we're going to have to do is double that, because that tells us how they went, or what's the perimeter of them going around it twice. So to find the perimeter, this one's a little bit easier because you can do 100 plus 100. I don't know, 100 plus 100 is 200. And 60 plus 60 gives me 120, because 6 plus 6 is 12. So when you just add your 0 onto that, it's going to be 120. So if I have 200 plus 120, I know that 200 plus 100 is 300. And then whenever I add that 20, it's going to give me 320. So the perimeter of just going around this field one time would be 320 yards. But see, they went around it twice, so that's going to be me having to double 320, which is the same thing as 320 plus 320. So we're going to want to write that equation on our board, or not on our board, but on this piece of paper. So 100 plus 100 plus 60 plus 60, we just did that. We know that it was 320, and then we know that we had to do 320 plus 320, and that was going to give us our answer for what is the total number of yards. Whoa, man, I gotta rewrite it all. My new computer messes up sometimes whenever I'm writing. Okay, so 320 plus 320 would give us the total number of yards that the team jogs. So I do want you to go ahead and write that down on your paper and add that up to find the total answer for this problem. And whenever you're ready to check that, you may push play. So the team jogs a total of 640 yards. So that's the perimeter of that field 2 times. Number 6. Troop 516 makes 3 triangular flags to carry at a parade. They sew ribbon around the outside edges of the flags. The flags' side lengths each measure 24 inches. How many inches of ribbon does the troop use? So this definitely has more than one step, because it says that they're making 3 triangular flags, meaning that we've got 3 different triangles that we're looking at. And since we're working with perimeter and going around something, then I have to know the perimeter of all 3 of those triangles, and then I'm going to have to add the perimeter of all 3 of those triangles together to find out how many inches of ribbon they're going to need total. So the first thing I want you to do is to draw the triangle. If one side's 24 inches, then all sides are 24 inches because it's a regular triangle. So get that drawn first. And then what I want you to do is find the perimeter of just one triangle. If I have to have ribbon going around all 3 sides of this triangle, then what's the perimeter of this triangle? Because then that's going to help me find the perimeter for all 3 triangles. So get that down on your paper and then push play. So the perimeter for one triangle, it's not letting me move it. The perimeter for one triangle is going to be 72 inches. So if I know one triangle's perimeter, then all I have to do for the other 2 triangles is add 72 plus 72 plus 72, and that will give me the area, or not the area, I'm sorry, the perimeter for all 3 triangles together. So on your paper, we're going to write 72 plus 72 plus 72 to find the perimeter of all 3 triangles together. My Lord. Okay, so 72 plus 72 plus 72 gives me 216 inches. So the answer to the question when it's asking how many inches of ribbon they will need or use is the troop uses 216 inches of ribbon. So word problems, yes. Perimeter, yeah, it's pretty easy. But with word problems, you really have to pay close attention to what all it's asking you, because sometimes there's more than one step that's involved. And we've worked a lot with multiple step problems, and sometimes those are tricky to do correctly. And I'm sorry that the screen's moving an awful lot, but my computer's being weird right now. Okay. You're ready for the exit ticket. It says that she ropes off a square section, so you're going to be drawing a square, and you know that all sides of a square are the same lengths, so that's going to help you answer the question on this exit ticket. Whenever you're finished with this, make sure you bring it to me.